My story essentially is what it costs to be a Christian. It cost me 20 million rand. But for me, that's the best money I ever spent in my life.
Just because you know my name doesn't mean you know my story.
Okay, the first part of my story, some of you have heard it before, and I'll skip through the first part I'll go quite fast, so just bear with me if you have heard that part. And the first part relates to how I found God, or when I found God. And that goes back probably now about three and a half years ago, Christmas time. And I've been one of these Christians that I always knew God was around, and I knew that there was a maker, and those nice stories we heard when we were children in the Bible. And I used to go to church on Easter and Christmas. And Easter, I was down the coast in Natal, and we used to look forward to our sunrise services. They had a service at the beach, and you were there in the morning, and you watch the sun coming up. And funny enough, that just used to always strike a chord deep in my gut. Something with the sun coming up and God dying for me at sunset type of thing, you know. And what happened was we came here, and we were going to go to church on Christmas Day, and I decided not to go to the old Methodist church in Linwood Road. There was a new church up the road there, and we were going to go to this church. And I knew roughly where it was. And we thought, okay, so the services started around about 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll pop in there. Got the family in the car. We drove to the church, and we got to the church, and the gates are locked. You can imagine what a message that sends. You go to church. It's like the 1 or 2 times you go in a year, and you arrive there, and the gates are closed. And so we thought, okay, we're all dressed up with nowhere to go. We'll go find another church. And we drove further back along Linwood Road, and we find the Catholic Church. And so, what the hell, we're here for church, God's God, we'll pull it. And we arrived there, and they made us welcome. We arrived in this church, and it was the most worst service of my life. They were standing up, I was sitting down, we were standing up, or vice versa. It was terrible, and reading from the book, and I didn't know how to find the places in this book, and it was the most uncomfortable feeling out. And I thought, well, that's it, this is not working out for me. God doesn't want me, that type of stuff. Well, I won't say that. It's more a case of I made the excuse that God doesn't want me around. And skip forward 6 months later, I'm driving home from work, late-ish in the evening on my bike, and I get to the intersection of Atterbury and Garsfontein. And as I get there, an accident had just happened in front of me. I didn't witness the accident, but it just happened. And the fire engine arrived, the paramedics and that type of stuff. And it turns out that a biker had been coming down Atterbury Road from down the hill, and he got to the traffic lights. Some say he skipped the robot, some say he tried to time the robot, and he was just going through as it was turning green. He went between the cars, and the driver turned in front of him, and he T-boned the other vehicle. He was lying on the road, and he was moving, and I was checking this out, and I was like, this is quite cool, not cool, but I was interested, And then the paramedics started taking his helmet off. So I said to them, don't take his helmet off. And no, he's okay, they know what they're doing. And I was asked to move aside, and I stepped aside. These are the professionals, supposedly. And in the meantime, his wife had been phoned, and it said, don't worry, meet us at Pretoria's hospital. This guy's on his way, everything's cool. They took his helmet off, and I watched his hand, and his hand did that and stopped. And he died. And obviously the pressure of removing the helmet and all that type of stuff. And I didn't know this guy from a bar of soap, but it struck a chord. I started crying. And I don't know why. I guess I got an affinity for other bikers, and bikers are like that. We ride, we always greet each other in the roads. It's a brotherhood of bikers. And I just I felt a part almost, and I don't know why. And my wife phoned me and said, where are you? Why aren't you home yet? And I told her I'm under accident, and I was crying, and she said, what's wrong? And she thought I was involved in the accident. And it turns out that he was a pastor from this church on the corner back here. and the young, involved with the youth. And that night, I said to my wife, I want to go to church again. And I came to Doxa, and Yuri was preaching. And Yuri's got a way about him. He was just talking to me. And everything he said in that sermon was aimed at me. And I said to my wife, next Sunday, I want to go back. And for the first time in my life, I actually wanted to go to church. I got up and I was the guy dressed, chasing the family. Come, let's go, we're going to be late. And I'm not a guy who enjoys this praise and worship too much. I come from a traditional environment, type of thing, where we don't stand up, we don't do all the hallelujah stuff and things like that. And sorry, I'm a rough Christian, sorry guys, okay. But I used to skip some of the praise and worship, and I sort of sometimes arrive 10 minutes later, so I didn't have to go through all that too much. But just the sermon, I lapped the sermon up, and it just like, every time Yuri just talked to me, and so that's how I got involved in the church. It wasn't like a light bulb moment, just saying, okay, just got into it. I was suddenly hungry for the word. I joined a cell group, and I found the cell group was probably almost more beneficial for me than church. I loved the small group. I learned so much from the friends. Bram Lowe was my cell group leader, and he made me feel welcome, arriving in his house, and it's like an Afrikaans family. Lack of food, lack of coffee, and I enjoyed it again. And also again, like Wednesday nights now, suddenly I had something to look forward to. If there's something else on my calendar, cancel that on my calendar. I had cell group, and it was good. So my sort of relationship grew out of a camaraderie and just feeling welcome, and that's for me, that stands out. And whenever I meet or involved with other people now, I'm trying to like give them the same sort of feeling that I felt when I arrived at church. I know what it's like being someone who doesn't know anything about the Bible. We used to joke, and they used to tease me when we start reading the Bible, and they'd tell me the book of James, and they'll say, that's in the Old Testament. And I'd look in the Old Testament and it wouldn't be there, type of stuff. It was lekker. I still do it to my friends now, type of thing. The turning point came for me, my business. I was struggling in my business. Now I've been involved in the fast food business before this, and I was extremely successful. And I mean successful in the sense that open shops, they made money from day one. Everything I touched just worked for me. And life was easy. I know there's rich people out there, far richer than I am and ever will be, but we didn't want for anything. My kids didn't want for anything. We decided we were going to go to New York and celebrate New Year's Eve in New York City. And we decided to book a hotel in Times Square. $10,000 a night, not a problem. We do it, you know. So my past, I didn't need God, and I think that's everything was my doing. I was striving for success all the time, and I never found it. All I wanted was I wanted to be franchisee of the year. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to own more property, and everything I did was like, let's say we were building a new shop, and I'd be all over the shop. I loved the deal. I loved fighting with the landlord. Trying to get the rent as low as possible, get the best possible deal, fighting with builders, haggling, getting a better price, knocking their prices down, cutting corners, everything to get the best possible return on my investment. And it was awesome. I loved it. I loved that challenge. However, the day the shop opened, I lost interest in the shop. It didn't satisfy me. I remember, this is not politically correct, we opened a shop in Mafeking, and 2 weeks before we opened, someone said, has someone organized the staff? Oh shit, whose job is that? Edit that out, okay. And so I decided, okay, the newspaper was coming out in 2 days' time. I put an ad in the local newspaper, KFC hiring, be 6 o'clock in the morning. Be at the shop 6 o'clock in the morning. 6 a.m. I get there, there's probably about 120, 150 people outside the shop looking for work. First of all, it's the people that want to be there, they get there that early. The rest of the people, if they only get there later, I don't really want them. So I stand up and I say, okay, fine, I've got too many, I need to cut this down fast. So all the men, you can go. So the guys who can stop mumbling and moaning, and they go. And I left about 40 people. Okay, so all the single ladies, you can go. And there's more muttering and moaning, and they go. All the married women with husbands, you can go. All the married women with more than 2 kids, you can go. And I'm left with about 15 people, 15, 20 people. And I say, fine, okay, you guys are hired. All right. And they were my best staff. The reason why is that, first of all, they had dependents. They were solely dependent on a wage. They hadn't anybody else give them money, and they just did the job. I chose a manager out of that group, and they were my best. She was my best manager, and the male managers I found, it's also politically incorrect, were lazy. As soon as they become managers, they want to sit behind the desk. They don't want to get on the floor, clean the floors, and that type of thing. And I think it was also lucky, is we got there, and they would tell me about God. They'd tell me about church and that type of stuff, and they'd sing every time I got there. And again, this is just another sort of chord in my throat, in my gut, about there's a God. Even though I was so wrong in selecting them, but they still forgive me type of stuff. Anyway, I go and my life plan was to retire when I got to the age of 45. And at the age of about 44, I was selling off some of my assets. And I had a business in Botswana. I sold those off, and I made some good money out of that. I sold Swaziland off. I had the sole rights to Swaziland and Botswana. I sold those and made some good money. And then I was selling the shops in Mafeking, Mabatu. And there was a BEE component there. And they wanted the Pretoria shops. And I was quite happy. I wanted to sit with 36 Pretoria shops. And there would be lekker and no traveling. Everyone was going lekker. And they told me, no, they want these Pretoria shops. And eventually, to get them off my back, I made a price I thought they were going to just walk away from. They were going to laugh at me and walk away from. And a week later, they phoned me and said, no, they've got a deal. I've got a deal. So I phoned my 2 partners. And I said, listen, guys, I think I've sold the shops. And they say, are you crazy? And how much? I'll give them the price. And that's, where do I sign, type of thing. And for 6 months, I thought I did the wrong thing. And every time I go past the shop and I see a sign not working properly, or something's dirty, or even there's paper outside the shop, I'd bend down and pick the paper up. You know, it's still part of my blood. And it took me a long time to get rid of that one. And I tried other things. I built 2 houses, and I got involved in a cell phone business for a while, in the cell phone and loans business for a while. And that's the most unethical business in your life. People come in wanting to borrow money, and they don't qualify for loans, so you sell them a cell phone. They go sell a cell phone, and that's how they get their money, but that's beside the point. I bought a tire business, and I bought it for cash, bought 5 shops, and it was going lekker initially, and I surrounded myself with the wrong people. And I mean that because everyone was friends with me because of my money. I thought that the staff were against me because I thought they thought, oh, he has a rich guy coming in, doesn't know what he's doing. And theft was rife, and I couldn't fix this business, okay? After coming from such a successful business in the past, to suddenly become a failure. And I was busy going bankrupt, and I was actually bankrupt. I was losing money hand over fist. Every month I was putting money in to try and pay creditors, and I couldn't do this. My friends in my cell group, we were all praying every Wednesday night, praying for the business, praying for me, praying for whatever, and nothing was happening. And someone says, give it over to God. So I said, cool, I'll give it over to God. We all pray about it. We say, God, please step in, help us out with the business. And nothing happens. I said, give it over to God. God, I need your help. Come on. Yeah. And the end of the month comes, just payday's coming up, and I haven't got money in the bank for the payroll. God, come on, what's happening? And God doesn't step in, and I go borrow more money, and that loan is a scam. The classic one where you borrow money now and you just pay 10,000 Rand towards the admin costs and the money be transferred. That's how desperate I was. I actually did that. Now, I'm a businessman who supposedly knows the scams. I'm the one that scams other guys. And yeah, I got scammed, I got taken. And it really rocked me. And the thing that rocked me the most was my wife didn't leave me. I know she loves me because she came from where she had her car cash. She had all the hotel bills and all that type of stuff. And she stayed by my side. And I expected her to really take me apart for borrowing money on a scam, trying to borrow money with a scam. And she said to me, we all make mistakes. We need to pray about this. And that just got my core. And that restored my faith in my wife and my humility. And my wife never once blamed me for losing money and that type of stuff. Anyway, I was praying God take over this business and God wasn't stepping in. And eventually, December a year ago, if I could have given that shop to somebody who would have taken over, I would have given it to him. That's how desperate I was to get rid of this thing. I just didn't want the responsibility anymore. This is a guy who turned over 650 million a couple of years before that. And my bottom line was 65 million. For a guy with no degree, no formal, I studied, I didn't make the final degree, wasn't a proper accountant. It's pretty good. My dad used to always tell me my motto is bullshit baffles brains, and it worked for me, okay. Anyway, one day I was sitting there and the creditors were phoning. I actually had a summons served on me. And I just said, God, I can't do this anymore. I'm gone. I need your help. And I was on my knees praying. And nothing miraculous happened. No great big change happened. It was a gradual thing. You look around and suddenly the shop was full. People are coming into my shop. The next month we made the payroll. I've been negotiating with my landlord to renew the lease. And because I knew that if I didn't get that lease signed, I had no business. And if no business, I got no money, I got no way of paying my creditors. And the landlord was holding out for somebody else. My franchisor thought I wasn't interested in the business. The business was going belly up, so they weren't keen on renewing. And when I got to this stage where I said, God, I really need your help. With all honesty, I was desperate for God. Suddenly the landlord and I spoke and we signed this lease. Things started happening. A friend of mine, who was a friend of my wife's, also a member of DOXA, came and she said to us, she was driving past my shop and she saw angels circling over the building ahead. I get goosebumps when I hear that story, when I talk about that story. In my wife's words, she thought, what the hell are you smoking? And we thought, okay, well, this is good. Hey, maybe there are angels, but I don't see the angels. We made the payroll. I had a building for sale. I sold the building. I settled all my debt. And now we're in a situation where, well, it wasn't also instantaneous, but we made the payroll. I paid the priority debt first. We did the right things. I spoke to people who knew what they were talking about as far as finance goes, gave me good advice. And now we're in a situation where we're paying our creditors before the end of the month. I'm getting all my settlement discounts. And that's so lekker. We paid everybody by the 30th of this last month, took all my discounts, and I actually sat down with my financial manager or financial accountant, and we prayed about it. We said, thank you, God. This is so lekker. No one has to phone me and say, where's my money? And she says, it's so nice for her coming to work again, being that. And I share with my staff about God in our business. We talked about the business is not for me, it's not for the shareholders and stuff. The business is for them. It feeds their families. And they in it. Beforehand, when I talk to my staff, in South Africa we talk about staff as being black. When I talk to them, we can talk about the soccer, and it stops there. You have a sentence or two, and you've got nothing further to talk about. Now, we talk about God. And we talk about God in our families. We talk about our kids needing leadership, needing a father figure. And they got the same problems as I've got. They've got the same issues. They also want a roof over their heads. They also want a car. They also want food at the end of the month. They also got debt issues. And now I've got so much to talk to them about. When I bought the business, we were 100% unionized. Every single staff member belonged to a union. And if anybody who knows the motor industry, it's tough. And we were strike action. I went through a strike, and I felt everyone was against me. Now we're all in this together, and that's lekker. It's lekker going to work now. When I don't feel that they're out to get me all the time. Even customers, and in the motor industry again, customers in the motor industry, they're always out for freebies. I learned about van dat. Van dat jy my wiel gedoen, nou werk my steering box nie meer nie. And that's hard to deal with those customers. And initially I used to fight with those customers. And someone said to me, one of the preachers we had here in the church, what would Jesus do? And it's an old cliche, but I use it. How would Jesus react? And if you can just put your mind into that mode, suddenly things start making sense. Your attitude changes. And it's amazing. You can actually talk to the customer and you can get through that. Listen, and you explain what causes that steering box to fail. It wasn't taking the wheel off type of thing. And I can get customers now where they are screaming at me in one moment and they're all over me, smiling, shaking hands. I invite them for coffee 5 minutes later. And that's a lekker feeling as well. So, in short, I never had a burning bush moment, and I always wanted a burning bush. When I gave my life to God, I wanted that burning bush. I so desperately wanted to hear God's voice. And people always tell me, you'll hear God's voice, don't worry, you'll hear it. And speaking in tongues even, I wanted to speak in tongues. I've never spoken in tongues. That doesn't make me less of a Christian. It's a gift that supposedly comes to people. It hasn't come to me. If God gives it to me, hey, lekker. If He doesn't give it to me, I don't need it. I've got God anyway. I know God's there. This business for me now is my rock. Proving that give it over to God. It's God's time. Works. In the sense that I had to get to rock bottom to give it over to God. When I bought the business, it cost me close on 20 million rand. And I lost that all. The nice thing about it, God was working in my life before I even gave my life to God. He almost like he built me up this fund of cash so I can pay for this business. And then He took it away to smack me and say, hey, catch your wake up. And I had to lose that money and to be so desperate enough to give my life to God that for me, that was a price I paid for Christianity. It's the best money I ever spent in my life. Yes, it cost me 20 million rand to buy this business, and it cost me 20 million rand effectively to give for everlasting life. But that's a bargain for me. And if someone can, my thought is if I can save someone 20 million rand, so they can find God without spending 20 million rand, then for me, that's a good price as well. Yeah. A key to my journey was friendship and having a small circle of friends, guys that meant something to me and who shared their lives with me and allowed me to open up and learn about that my problems are not unique. I got now a small circle of friends that phone me in the mornings and they'll say, Les, how are you? And they actually want to hear the answer, how am I? And I try and do that, practice that myself now with just a few people. And I phone them and ask, how are you? And I really want to know, how are they? And it's amazing how you can connect just by showing a real interest in somebody. We all want people to care about us. And too often we're just too busy for other people not to care enough. And that's what God wants us to do. That's how we connect with people. It's just show you care. And when he says he's got a problem, listen to the problem. Not a case of, oh, I'm busy now, I'll make a point, we'll chat, we'll have coffee sometime. No, it's making time now when the guy wants to talk to you. And as men, we need to open ourselves up and be brave enough is to show real interest in those people. And by showing that we care for someone else, they can in turn can show that they care for other people around them. And that's what Jesus wants us to do, is to connect with people. And being a true Christian is connecting and spreading the word.